Right. Right. Good evening, commissioners, and over to you, Chair Harrington.
County Board of Commissioners. Don't mind us, we're still getting used to being together in person here at the Washington County Public Services Building Auditorium. Clerk Moss.
Thank you, Chair Harrington. The Washington County Board of Commissioners, also meeting as the Board of Directors for Clean Water Services and all other county service districts, is now meeting this regular session, September 27th, 2022. Commissioner Rogers.
Here.
Commissioner Fye.
Here.
Vice Chair Willie.
Here.
Chair Harrington.
Here. Thank you, Clerk Moss. The next item on our agenda is public communication. This is an opportunity for members of our community to come and speak with the board on any topic you would like for up to 2 minutes a person. Clerk Moss.
Thank you, Chair Harrington. We had no one sign up in advance or in the room, so would there be anyone in the room or attendees online wishing to testify tonight? I'll give you just a moment for the online to raise your virtual hands. Not seeing any hands, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. Next on the agenda is our consent agenda. We have 2 items from Clean Water Services and 2 items from Support Services for a total of 4. What are the wishes of the commission for the consent agenda?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. Commissioner Treese is excused this evening. I neglected to mention that. Next, we have 3 different presentations tonight. And the first one is an Animal Services Operations Update. So at this juncture, I'd like to invite Mira Samantel, Mr. Randy Covey, and if I had my notes properly in front of me, and other staff members to come present to us, please.
Good evening, Chair Harrington, Board of County Commissioners. For the record, my name is Mira Samantel. I am the Interim Director of Health and Human Services. I am joined tonight with Animal Services Manager Randy Covey, who is going to be taking you through an informational presentation about animal services. We also have with us in the room guiding the presentation and available for questions towards the end would be Stacy Beckley, who is our Animal Behavior and Outreach Coordinator. So the audience can't see her right now, but if she has an opportunity later to answer questions, she would be able to come up if needed. With that, I will go ahead and turn things over to Randy to take you through tonight's presentation.
Thank you, Mira. Chair Harrington, Board of Commissioners, thank you so much for making time for us tonight. I'm very happy to be here and proud to share some information about animal services. As Mira mentioned, this is information only, but it is a follow-up to a meeting we had 2 years ago where we presented some information and asked you a specific question, which you gave us an affirmative answer on, and so we're here to report back on where we are with that, among other things. Stacy actually is going to run the slides for me. As we learned last time, I can't talk and click. And before I jump right into it, I do want to let you know I have shared with each of you, including Diane and Tanya, a pet food measuring cup and a cat toy. I don't know if you have cats or dogs, so I provided both. Those are things that we hand out at community events, and we're happy to share those with you tonight, just as a reminder of animal services and some of the things we do in the community. Okay. Washington County Animal Services, as you know, is a division of the Department of Health and Human Services. Our motto is caring for people, animals, and the environment. Here you have a picture of a gentleman who took advantage of the Washington County Cooling Center. He's there actually singing to his dog at the cooling center that Animal Services helped to provide pet supplies for. A really tremendous success and just an example of some of the things we do in the community. The other photo is Animal Services at the county fair, sharing information. I want to talk a little bit about operations during the pandemic. it's been a couple of years since we last met, and during that time, we had this event that happened. And there's been rumors out there that Animal Services closed, but I want to assure you that we certainly did not. In fact, Animal Services was open every day that we normally are open throughout the entire pandemic. It's impossible. I was going to say difficult, but it's literally impossible to care for animals remotely. And so our staff were coming into the shelter every day. We were open to the public. We did adjust building access. There were times that we, especially early in the pandemic, where we closed and locked the doors, but we had a sign out front that said, call this number and let us know you're here, and we'll help you over the phone, or we'll let you in if you're here to pick up an animal. And so we did make those adjustments, but we never closed. We were always open and available to the public in some fashion. And having our doors locked actually was not a long-standing situation. We did still do stray animal intake. We returned animals to their owners. We provided investigation services for calls that came in. We did all of those services that we normally do through the entire 2 years. I'm talking 20 and 21, the last 2 complete years. We also, as a result of the pandemic, we created an online Animal Services Academy. It started as a training program for our volunteers, but we quickly pivoted and put that online and made it available to anybody in the public who has an interest in learning about animal services, the different programs. We have, I think it's a 10 session training program. And we talk about different topics like field services. We talk about how we manage animals in the shelter. We talk about the medical program and the medical care that animals in the shelter receive. We talk about pet owners and dog license responsibilities, just a wide range of topics. Been very well received. We have to limit the attendance, of course, but we generally have, we've done it 3 or 4 times now. We've had a full attendance roster for each of the academies. We're pretty excited that we're going to start the next one, be our first one in person, actually starting in October. October 15th is the first weekend, and we're going to do it in person over 2 different Saturdays. So it'll be all day the 15th and then all day again the next Saturday. Pretty excited about that. It's been well received, and it really ultimately helps us give people an opportunity to become animal service ambassadors. So they learn all this information about animal services, and then we have a couple of other criteria related to our volunteer program, and then they are authorized to and encouraged to talk to their community in different forums about animal services, answer questions that might pop up on social media, and it really helps us get good, informed information out in the community. We did provide animal care during the pandemic. There were some concerns initially about questions, at least, about whether animals could get and transmit the pandemic virus. And so we still provided care, making adjustments in how animals were handled. And I'm very proud to say that we went the entire pandemic with staff working in person, following all the guidelines without any workplace outbreaks in the pandemic. And that's due in large part to the good guidance we got from our own public health department and the county guidelines. So thank you for all of your leadership in that regard. I want to talk a little bit about services by the numbers, and I'll just go over this quickly. You can see the numbers up there. And this is just an indication that we were very busy. We stayed just as busy during the pandemic as we were before and have been. I say after. I know the pandemic is still a thing, but it's calmed down, and we're very happy for that. A couple of things I want to highlight. The 59,562 phone calls received from the public, that's an average of about 100 phone calls every day that we're open. So if that gives you just some perspective on how busy our office is and what a tremendous job our staff does in fielding those phone calls, everything from can I license my dog over the phone to can I file a complaint about my neighbor's barking dog to I have a concern about a dog that I saw left in a hot car. I mean, there's just a wide range of things that come in, average of about 100 a day. And then our officers respond, and the 6,248 field response number that you see there on the screen, that's just initial calls. That doesn't count the follow-up visits that the officers make, the follow-up phone calls, the investigations that might take 2 or 3 or 4 or more contacts, we call them. So that's, again, just an indication of how busy we've been and the services that we've been very happy to continue to provide. I want to share this quote with you, and it's just an indication, just a brief picture of the things that we do. Thank you so much for helping me get Banger from Oregon to Florida safely. I couldn't have done it without all of your help and patience. A brief story, this is a dog that came in. The owner, unfortunately, was incarcerated. The dog came to us because the owner was arrested. A lot of people in the old days, let's say, view animal services as this place that's the pound, and they just take animals, and if you're in jail and you're on hard times, they don't care, they get rid of your animal. We don't do that. In this case, we recognized that the owner had fallen on hard times. He provided us with a name of a relative who lived in Florida, and we helped, because he couldn't come get his animal, we actually held the animal longer than were required and helped get it home to Florida where it could have good care there. And we got a nice thank you for that. One of the other things that we've continued to do through the pandemic and will continue to do in the future is our dog licensing. As you know, it provides roughly about half of the revenue that supports animal services program. And this is just an example of the ad campaigns that we create and put out there. Is that a reverb issue? Okay. So this is just an example of the ad campaign that we have. There's great sound that goes with it. I encourage you to view that later. But I also want to point out that these are actual employees of ours that are acting in this video. They happen to both be officers, Officer Eco that you see there playing the part of the dog owner, and of course Officer Bowie, who was in uniform. But we like to create these ads that show in this case shows a dog that escaped and is returned home because of his dog license. And we've gotten really good response to these ads, and we just like to remind people that licensing their dogs is not only required, but it's very helpful. We also do more serious things like investigations. I think some of you may have seen our most recent newsletter where we highlighted this case in our newsletter. This is a case where some animal welfare, animal behavior professionals in our community called us with a concern about a friend of theirs that they discovered had been neglecting her own animals. They were reluctant to call us for a variety of reasons, but we responded. We did a full investigation. We determined, yes, in fact, this was a very serious neglect situation. Our officers did an excellent, outstanding job, not just of gathering the evidence and putting together a solid case, but they also showed, as they always do, compassion for the owner, concern for the people who had called us because of their reluctance, because it was a friend of theirs and they were concerned about the animals. And so this is just highlighting the type of case that we get actually more often than we like to think about. But this one was relatively special, and I just wanted to highlight that for you tonight. Moving on to our HVAC system. We've had some, as you know, our facility is aging. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But we did, one of our success stories is that we did replace our HVAC system just this summer. We made a conscious decision to do it as soon as all the materials and the contractors were ready to go, even though when we started, the weather was reasonable, but it quickly turned to the hottest week of the year. That temperature gauge you see in the bottom left corner there is actually inside the office area of the shelter during this HVAC system replacement. But facilities was fantastic. They brought portable AC cooling units. You can see those in one of the pictures with the big venting going up. And we did get the HVAC system replaced. It's on, it's working, and it's a really nice improvement and necessary. We couldn't have gone any longer because not only do we have staff working in the building, but we also have animals that are there 24/7, and there's some pretty important air circulation and heating and cooling needs for animal care in the shelter. So really nice to have that done. As part of that, we also were able, facilities actually was able to include as part of that contract something that we had submitted a while back, which is removal of our incinerator. As I think you may recall, we have reduced euthanasia of animals from over 3,000 a year down to 100 or less per year, and that's a pretty significant milestone, and we no longer need the incinerator. And so we had it removed as part of this project, and we consider that a pretty major milestone for animal services. Ongoing challenges. Yes, I know, I love to talk about all the positive things. There are some challenges that we still have. One of them is related to the audit. It's not the audit itself is the challenge, it's what the audit revealed for us. And the reasonable restrictions based on the Association of Shelter Veterinarians guidelines. The audit does restrict the number of animals that we can hold in the shelter at any one time. It also restricts the length of stay. Those restrictions limit the number of animals that we can take in. It also limits the types of things we can do in our operations. One of them is adoptions. I'm just going to go over this real quickly. I appreciate your patience with me so far, and I just want to provide just enough detail, but not too much. So I'll try to do that. When we're talking about adoptions, we're required, when we get a stray animal into the shelter, we're required to hold an animal for 3 to 7 days. And that's by law, and it depends on the type of identification the animal has. If it has no identification, it's 3 days. If it has identification, it's actually technically it's 7 days. We extend that automatically to the longest reasonable period of time, which means we don't count holidays and we don't count weekends in the hold time. So a required 5-day hold turns into a 7 or 9 day hold pretty quickly. And then once the animal then, if no owner comes forward, the owner becomes the property of the county. Then we can do behavior assessment, spay and neuter surgery, and put it up for adoption. Well, by that time, 2 weeks has come and gone, and the audit restricts our ability to hold animals longer than 2 weeks. There are some exceptions, but they're pretty extreme, and I shouldn't say extreme. There are exceptions that require a lot more work beyond that, and more staff time that we can't always meet. So we reserve those exceptions for cases where we're required to hold animals longer than 2 weeks. So the short version is we can't hold animals for adoption. But the great news is that we have a good relationship with our ASAP partners, Animal Shelter Alliance of Portland. And so other organizations we have agreements with where we transfer animals to them. Once we've held them, they become the property of the shelter. Then we can transfer them to them. They have very robust adoption and foster programs that allow us to find really good outcomes for the animals that come through our shelter, and don't put us in a position of having to violate the animal care standards that the audit revealed and that we're committed to adhering to. We have limited intake of healthy stray cats. There's a lot of cats in the community. Because cats aren't regulated, there aren't any real requirements for cats to be at large or for us to intake cats. It's really a service that we provide. And so we have come up with some really unique and creative ways, our staff have, of scheduling intake of cats, which allows us to limit the number of cats we have in shelter and control that income and outcome, which meets the requirements of the audit. and still allows us to provide a valuable service to the public by giving them a time when they can bring cats into us. The shelter that we have is crowded. It's a crowded space for our staff. We have 25 staff there, and our break room, for example, holds 2. And when we have an officer has a dog owner come in and the officer needs to issue citations or have a difficult conversation about an injury that their dog may have suffered for whatever, a dog hit by a car or something like that, we really have no space in the shelter. So that's an ongoing challenge to have those very sensitive conversations and communications with members of the public. I often give up my own office for really private, sensitive conversations, and there are other spaces that we have multi-use of, but it's a challenge, and so that's why I wanted to share that tonight. We have frequent maintenance issues. It's just an aging facility. One example, and I'll share it, when we had our HVAC being replaced and we had the portable AC units plugged in, pretty tragic thing happened. We found that we could not also then plug in the coffee maker. And so the staff had to go without their morning coffee because it would blow the breakers in the shelter if we had too many things going. And so they adjusted fine and we got through it. But it was just an example of the aging facility and just one of the challenges and things that we have to be careful of. As you all know, the county population is increasing dramatically over the years. And so, as you saw from the statistics that I shared, we're a very busy operation. Our staff do a great job, but it is a challenge, and it will become more of a challenge as the population increases and the demand on our services increases. That's just one thing that I wanted to share tonight. Let's move on and talk about the shelter. Now, this is getting back to our last meeting, and the opportunity that I had then was to share with you the results of we hired a consultant to tell us, is the way Animal Services, answer this question, is the way Animal Services is operating now the best model for Washington County now and into the future? And what I shared with you back then was that the answer was yes. Our consultant compared our operation to others around the country and determined that we should continue. Why was that important? That was important because the next conversation we had and the question that we asked you 2 years ago was, should we look at what we need to do, what kind of a new facility we need, and how might we pay for it going forward? You gave us permission to try to start answering those questions. Part of that came from the audit, the fact that the auditor let us know that our facility doesn't meet the criteria that we need to provide the care that the community expects and that, honestly, our own staff expect in terms of facilities. And so we started moving forward in that direction. What we've done so far is we have identified some needs for a new shelter. We've asked the staff, we've asked volunteers, we've asked some members of the community to provide input. I put some examples of that input up here, and I just want to point out these are just a short list of examples, and I put on there I counted 55 more suggestions that are deemed essential needs in a new shelter as we move towards that goal. We did this through creating a vision board in the shelter. We had staff just putting up thoughts and ideas and photos and things that would show what they're talking about, what they're seeing, reminders of what we don't want to forget about. Things like having a quiet room for grieving pet loss. When people come in and we have to tell them, I'm sorry, your pet is here, but it was unfortunately hit by a car and it's deceased. Having a space for the community to go so we can provide that care for them is really important, and it's modeled in other shelters around the country as a really good and positive impact on the community. This anonymous quote, I wish I could attribute it to somebody, but it was posted anonymously, but I believe it wholeheartedly. It says, whatever's required for animals to be adopted out from the shelter itself The shelter should be in a position to take care of and rehome the stray animals of Washington County on its own. Now, we're very grateful for the partners that we have and the relationships we've built to share and transfer animals and accomplish the same goal. But we do still honestly get people coming into the shelter. There was a gentleman came in just today, wanted to adopt a cat, and we just didn't have that ability. And we do want to get back to that. So we've also taken some additional steps. These are great first steps, but the additional steps we've taken is we've done some research, and we've identified in the animal welfare world, there are experts that specialize in animal shelter design and also specialize in animal shelter fundraising. So the next steps that we're prepared to take are to contract with some architectural experts that know about shelter design. They can look at what the community needs are, and they can advise us on what they think a new shelter for us might look like. The cost is relatively low, and in fact, we've budgeted that already in the current fiscal year. We've also identified an opportunity to resources for shelter fundraising feasibility study. Essentially what that is it's an expert in, again, animal shelter fundraising that can advise us. They'll conduct community interviews. They'll talk to leaders in the community. I'm guessing also including the county commissioners, and get an idea of what the level of support is in the community for funding or donating to an animal shelter. And then they'll come back to us and let us know what they think the chances are of us raising the admittedly several $1 million that would be needed to replace the animal shelter. Now, are we doing this on our own? We're not. I want to talk about the next steps that we are preparing to take. We've already been in contact with Facilities and Park Service. Laurel Brown has been really interested in what we've shared with her about the goals of replacing the animal shelter. She understands that there is no current approval to do that. She understands that we're still in the investigative stage to see what we might need and how much it might cost and how we might pay for it. But we are working very closely under, and this is very much in line with the One Washington County vision that the county administration has identified, working with facilities, working with the CAO's office, and determining what the next steps are. And we believe that it will include architectural and fundraising consultants, getting those reports, and then combining those to help us be better informed when working within the county facilities master plan and the facilities planning process to determine what the next steps are. And finally, I'm at my last slide, and I just want to share this with you. I talked a little bit earlier about the investigation that we did into the neglect situation. This is one of several animal behavior professionals that contacted us about those concerns. And after we were all done, she wrote a very nice letter, and she gave me permission to share this quote with you. She says, "I have come to recognize Washington County Animal Services as the gold standard by which I judge all other animal control agencies." The reason I share this and the reason I think this is so meaningful is because Mia, who wrote this, didn't just call us and then see that we did something. She called us, she watched us, she asked us questions. She was there when we got the search warrant and removed all the animals from the house. She watched how our officers handled the animals and how we had vet services on scene to examine them and make sure that they went to the right place and got the right immediate care. She saw how we cared for them after the seizure. She saw how we took them from, the picture that we showed earlier was of Tomo. He was about 40 pounds when we took him in, and he gained about 40 more pounds while he was under our care. And Mia saw that, and she then saw how we found really good positive placements for these animals after the fact. So she saw our field operations, she saw our medical operations, she saw our shelter operations, and she saw our animal placement operations. And so we very much appreciate her sharing her sentiments about that, and I'm very proud to share that with you tonight.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments?
I'll make a comment. Thank you for your passion on the subject. I guess I get to reminisce just a moment. I can remember, and it's been a few years back, that right to your right, to my left, about right there, I stood and said to Bonnie Hayes, we're going to name an animal shelter after you. It was a brand spanking new facility at the time. So I guess time marches on and things get old, but I appreciate your passion. I mean, it's a subject that we all need to deal with. I wish that we had lots of cash that we could say we can do some things, but our facilities issues in this county are severe. We've got a jail, we've got courthouses. So thank you for bringing it to our attention. See if we can find some way forward with all of these needs, but Randy, I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to echo that. Randy, you and I have had some interaction before, and I was very impressed with when I came out to the shelter, and you can sense, your passion for helping these animals out and doing a great job. So, yeah, this is a great report. We always need to hear about what our various different departments and certain services that we're doing. We need to hear about that, and so great job on this. Keep up the good work, and I agree with Roy. He'll throw in some of his retirement plan, and we can get just a share, just a little bit, would take care of everything. So anyway, no, keep up the good work, and yeah, keep doing the job, and we'll get there.
Thank you very much.
I echo what both commissioners said. Randy, I really appreciate it. I appreciate hearing the success stories, and especially Mia's story. It's really compelling, and I encourage you to write a case study. And the story about the cats struck me, and especially somebody coming in and not having, and then reflecting back within my own neighborhood, some of the dynamic that exists, a lot of posts of cats that are lost and people looking for their cats. So is there any intention for Washington County to sort of create cats licensing, or what will be the barriers? And then also I was wondering, I have a question about the cooling shelter you talked about, and how many animals did come into that? What was the statistics on that?
Yeah, great questions. I'll answer the cat question first. That's probably the most challenging one. Cat regulation is something that has been debated for, well, I'm going to date myself. Commissioner Rogers can relate. I've been in this business for about 35 years, and it's been a long-standing conversation. Unfortunately, there have been no breakthrough moments on the best way to regulate cats, and so I don't see that happening in the near future. And at the very least, it would take regulating cats would take probably a doubling of our current resources in terms of employees and equipment and sheltering. But we do a great job with cats by, even when we can't take them in, if somebody finds a cat, even if we can't take them in, we have a service where they can list it as found, and we take all the information. And then if the owners come looking, we can match that information and put them in contact with the person who found the cat. So we are mitigating the concerns through those kinds of efforts, and our staff are fantastic. They amaze me every day with the way they match pets with people. I didn't highlight it, but in the information there, we have a 92% live release rate, which means that out of 100 animals come to the shelter, over 92 of them have a really positive outcome, either going back to its owner or going to a new home or being transferred to a partner. It's really a high rate. So cat regulation, probably no good solution has been found. Multnomah County has tried it, and it's unfortunately not been successful, is my understanding. But we do a lot to mitigate that. I have to say, a new shelter would help us do more. And Commissioner Rogers, I want to mention real quickly, On the back of my binder, I have the actual cost of the Bonnie Hayes shelter when it was built. As a reminder, I'm not sure I want to share it, but $1,677,000. I can safely say that a new shelter to meet the needs of the community would probably be in the $30 to $40 million range, just to not pull any punches.
Proud of you until you said that.
Yeah.
Teasing, I understand.
Thank you. And in response to the question about the cooling center, I believe at our highest point, we had about 40 people that made the use of the cooling center. And this picture that I showed was from the Wingspan Event Center, where we had that huge space. We divided it. Half of it was for people without pets. The other half was for people with pets. So there was a clear separation. There wasn't any unfortunate interactions. People were really well behaved with their pets. We provided crates. If they didn't come with their own, we provided crates. We provided food and water bowls, leashes, and a set of rules so that the people running the cooling center could share with pet owners when they came in. These are the rules. Don't let your pet off leash. Don't let other people interact with your pet. How many times, well, I know we've heard it a million times. My dog never bites anybody, except when it does. So we have rules, and the cooling centers were very successful. We have Carrie Johnson, who is our emergency operations representative. She works really hard to make sure that animals are always remembered in emergency planning. She works really hard with John Wheeler and his team, the result is having pets in cooling centers. The guy singing to his dog while he's sitting there staying out of the hot sun. And that's just one of the services that we're very happy and proud to provide. I hope that answered your questions.
Absolutely, and your 35 years of service is really showing off, and you know what you're talking about, and you have a really passion for it. So thank you for answering my questions, and I don't have any. Good job.
Thank you, Commissioner Fye.
I'll join my colleagues in thanking you for continuing to advocate on behalf of animal services, but also for running a service for our community in all kinds of scenarios. Ice storms, windstorms, 4th of July, loud bangs, smoke, you name it, holy jamoli. And you're always there, you and the members of your staff. Back on cats, I will say that I utilized the services of the Washington County Animal Shelter when I had feral kittens in my backyard eating birdseed because they were starving. And thank goodness for Washington County Animal Services because these cats needed help. And it was a really tough situation, but it was the best we could all do. I had a similar question about why cats aren't regulated. And part of what I think about is that dogs may be regulated because of, from prior history, rabies and fear of rabies and having rabid dogs in our community. But related to what I was really trying to get to is who has put the regulation in place? And here again, I assume it's from the state legislature. Could you help me understand if I'm headed in the right direction with each of those thoughts and assumptions?
I'll do my best, Chair
Well, you're
Harrington.
more expert than you're the expert in the room. Let me put it that way.
I will share with you that you're absolutely right. The regulation of dogs is required under the state laws. And under the state laws, it does require that dogs be licensed, requires that dogs be rabies vaccinated, and that they be regulated. The state law also allows, which Washington County is taking advantage of, allows counties to implement their own regulation of dogs. So the regulation of dogs is very clear from the state laws down and delegated down to the county level. Counties can choose to do it under state law. Washington County, I think wisely, has chosen to create our own animal services code that meets the requirements of the state law, but does it in a way that works best for our local community. In terms of cats, there are no regulations of cats at the state level, not in terms of rabies vaccines, not in terms of regulation. There are some commonly accepted reasons for that. Dogs are more dangerous in terms of their behavior. Now, it's not to say that a cat can't rip you to shreds. They can be very dangerous, but they're not typically that way. And a cat generally is going to run away rather than come at you. Dogs, on the other hand, are more likely to do some serious damage and create a significant public safety concern in terms of their behavior. Cats are also much more difficult to regulate. They're not, honestly, as easy to catch. They don't generally come to you. Even your own cat probably doesn't come to you when you call it most of the time. I had one cat in my lifetime that did that, but it was the rare exception. But beyond that, they're hard to find. The community in general, now there are some very strong cat advocates that firmly believe that the cat must stay in the house and never be let outside. But the community in general isn't ready to accept that cats must stay in the house. There's still a significant number of people who believe it's okay to allow cats to go in and out, live outdoors, and practice their own free will. Animal Services strongly encourages people to keep their pet indoors, whether it's a cat or a dog or any other kind of animal, under control, safe from traffic, safe from interactions with other animals that might be loose, wild or domestic, and that's our official position. But dogs typically are a greater risk to public safety and generally more reasonable to be able to regulate. I hope that answers.
Yes, it does. And thank you for being upfront that in your estimation that licensing of cats would require additional resources at the county level to manage such a program because we are dealing with all kinds of state mandates, unfunded state mandates for the care of people, let alone for the care of animals and neighborhoods. So it's pretty amazing. I will say that I'm not proud of the fact that we don't have a capital improvement plan here yet in Washington County, but I am proud of the fact that our staff is stepping up to the opportunity, and so I very much need to ensure, Ms. Angie, that any additional steps in investigating and a new animal services building will be done as part of the facilities plan for the county because we have too many competing needs all at once. But I do appreciate, Commissioner Rogers, you're grounding us in the fact that this building came to life or came to Washington County ownership 30 years ago under the leadership of Chair Bonnie Hayes, their namesake, and that we have work to do. I would like to, as you move forward in considering wants, needs, aspirations, that further documentation and efforts are informed by what are those items that are required by either state requirements or association requirements for accreditation. Those have to be achieved, no question. Whereas other ideas are all good ideas, but we're going to have to go through a process as an organization, not necessarily me specifically, thank you very much, to practice the art of the possible. Interestingly enough, while I was on vacation this summer, I was at an animal shelter in a county in Maine. And so I was reminded at what creative financing opportunities there are. And the facility was only 2 years old, and it was pretty impressive. So thank you very much for your presentation tonight.
Chair
Thank you.
Harrington, if I can just,
Oh, darn, I had one other question. I'm sorry.
can I jump in, Chair Harrington?
Yes.
Just as, in response to the capital improvement plan, as your board is aware, you have heard before about the needs of the shelter as well as our many facilities. And I think this conversation demonstrates, as you indicated, that need for a One Washington County CIP so that we can start really formulating that strategic approach to be investing in our wide array of infrastructure and assets that we have here at Washington County that serves people and pets. And to be thoughtful and to also be creative about how we do that, and delivering those services not just for tomorrow but future generations. More information will be coming to your board on that process. We're looking at getting time scheduled on your board's agenda in December.
Planning out December already. And I did forget to ask for the Online Animal Services Academy, are there any registration slots still available? And to put differently, since we just launched a new county website, what would the user search on our new county website to find out more? Or could we promote it on our county social media now that we have a new website launched? And I, for one, am having to learn how to find things in different places.
Yes, Madam Chair, I was looking at the new website today, trying to refamiliarize myself with the Animal Services webpage, and it is quite different and really nice.
Yeah.
I might add, just for any IT people that might be listening, web design team. Yes, the Animal Services Academy. I'm going to turn to Stacy. Are there slots still available?
So it actually filled. It had a registration limit.
Well, congratulations to you.
Because that's the space, what
Yeah.
the space could fit, but we started a wait list for it.
Oh, wait list, okay. Terrific. Great. I know there are folks who can't hear you due to the microphone limitations, so just to ensure everyone's captured it, the registration for the Online Animal Services Academy is full. It's reached its room capacity. There is a wait list, and thank you to the team for promoting that out to our community, and best of luck to all of you. Keep up the
you.
good work.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Chair Harrington.
Take care, and thank you, as Commissioner Fye mentioned, for your years of service here in Washington County. It's good to have experts. And now, speaking of website, we do have a new website as of yesterday, Monday, and so that is the topic of our second presentation.
So, Chair Harrington, I see our IT team, Information Technology Services team is being promoted right now. The website went live yesterday at 2 p.m. and the team is working virtually as they've been feverishly continuing to work and solve problems and respond to community questions. And we wanted to take this opportunity to just share some of the new features on the website to the benefit of the community who has really been asking for increase in access and accessibility. And I just not only appreciate the ITS team, but this work is a result of a One Washington County approach because every department needs to be part of this process as they are developing the content on our web pages. So with that, I will turn it over to our interim Information Technology Services Director, Sam Kim.
Good evening, County Commissioners. Thank you for that. My name is Sam Kim, and I am the Interim Chief Information Officer. It is my tremendous pleasure to announce, as Ms. Angie has indicated, that the new website successfully went live yesterday afternoon. It is everything we have hoped for and more. And I have with me Kevin Babbitt, Manager in charge of the new website, and Jennifer Kwan, the Project Manager. As they will attest, this has been a multi-year effort with tremendous input from the community members and staff. And I wish to thank the board and the CAO for their support and congratulate everyone involved in this monumental achievement as One Washington County. And Kevin Babbitt will now go into a bit more detail about our new website and how we got here. Kevin?
You're muted, Kevin.
I am. How about that?
Better.
Yes.
Hello, everybody. Just a couple of things I want to mention. What you're going to see tonight is the presentation of the website. It's the result of all the work that all the county staff have been doing over this time. But that's the look and feel. Our design firm developed that for us, and the navigation, the color, the layout. But that's not all what the project was. And it's important to understand that because we have moved the website and it is now hosted in the cloud in a very well-known, reputable service that we're happy to be in. And this enhances our reliability and our security. In addition to that, much of this project was the implementation of software that manages and presents the website to your browser. That's the content management system. So we're happy with that. The website's been really completely redeveloped in that content management system. And we're very sure that this underlying technology is going to serve the county well into the future. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer to demonstrate the website a little bit.
Thanks, Kevin. And I did have a few slides, so Clerk Moss, I'm not sure if you're able to pull this up for us. Great, thank you so much. If we could advance to the next slide, that would be great. Thank you. So hello, Chair Harrington and commissioners. It's so great to be in front of you today. As Sam and Kevin mentioned, this has been a multi-year project and we are very proud to have this in front of you. I will be sharing some background information about how we've gotten to this point and to highlight some features of the new website that were designed using feedback from the community, which we're very proud of. So from the very beginning of this project, we have known that the majority of our public turns to the website really as that first area or that first search point for the information that they need. And that has been, I think, particularly true throughout the pandemic. So to better serve the public's needs, the project team has really tried to focus on the project purpose, which is in front of us on the screen. And that is to transform the Washington County website into the digital gateway to services for our community. Next slide, please. All right, so we knew that we wanted to engage with the community and with county employees to better understand the barriers that they were facing with the previous sites. We received a lot of feedback about what wasn't working well and also what people were hoping to see on the new website. So from there, we actually worked with a design firm to take all of that feedback that we received and turned it into a website that we felt was modern, really user-friendly, and easy to understand. And at the same time, while all of that design work was happening, the work groups across the county were completing a major overhaul of all of their content. So they were asked to streamline their content, update their content, and also make their content mobile friendly. So from there, all of that background work has gotten us to this point, which is the launch of the new website, which, as people mentioned, went live yesterday at 2 p.m. And I'm hoping that I can actually share my screen and take you through some of the highlights of the community-driven features that were designed to improve access to county services. So I will share my screen and hopefully I can bring this up for all of you. All right, can someone give me a thumbs up if they can see my screen? Perfect, all right. So what you are looking at right here is our new redesigned website. So up here at the top of the page, we have made translation more prominent, and we've also added a standalone Spanish translation button based on feedback that we received from community members. We've also updated the global navigation, which is this bar right here, to make it easier for users to find the information that they need. So our new navigation groups areas by certain content types. So we have community, businesses, departments, priorities, and governments. And we've also added search at the top of the page for better visibility. Users across the community also let us know that when they come to the site, they have a specific task or question in mind. The How Do I section, which is this section right here in blue, was designed to help users easily identify tasks or information that they're searching for. And these links actually represent the most accessed pages or services across the website. We have also tried to make news and updates prominent right down here. And just below that, we've added an additional search area for folks that are looking to find other things. If they haven't found it in the global navigation or in the news area, they can use the search bar right here. And below that, we have featured services. People can click through here. These are our top featured services, and they can click on the link to access more services as well. And just below that, we have a newsletter sign up area and our updated footer, which has links to our social media accounts as well. So I'll go back up to the top of the page. And that was a very quick overview of the new homepage and everything that we've tried to enhance for our community. And we are actually very excited to hear feedback and suggestions as more people visit the sites. The goal is ultimately to continue making this update so that we can be responsive to the county and the community's needs as they evolve over time. So thank you so much for the opportunity to highlight our new sites. I want to pause and see if there are any questions that I can answer.
Jennifer, I would like to add and draw attention to the olive box at the top of the page, which welcomes users to the new site. And we do want to hear from community suggestions or questions. So if there's navigation trouble or if you can't find information you're looking for or search isn't working in the way that you would hope, please let us know. So that we can continue to make this a community website that the community feels that they have easy access to.
Absolutely.
Can I respond? So yeah, thank you very much. This, I'm not a big website guy, but I went in and played with this a little bit today. I was surprised to see in the middle where you have abuse and neglect, code enforcement, crime, domestic violence, those kinds of things, those didn't fit to me to be top of mind. But then I hovered over up above that where it says community, businesses, departments, priorities. And to me, that's kind of the meat of where I would think most of our constituents are going to go. And so if you could just, is this live? Can you hover over those things?
Yes, I can. So I'll click on community and take you to this page. So we've been working very closely with the CAO to identify areas that are of interest to our community. So we have breakout areas for health, livability, our county support, and public safety and emergency.
Yeah, and I thought that was great. So I did that on every one of those across there. And quite frankly, I was looking to see where the Board of Commissioners were in that. So obviously that's under government, and then there's a whole litany of stuff underneath government there. I wanted to make sure that we had Roy's newest and youngest looking picture on there instead of that old one that he had. Much younger looking Roy, there you go. But anyway, no, so that was kind of different for me, but it's very easy to walk through and define things. So I think that was the most important part about this new website, was I could find the things that I wanted to find, and I think our constituents will too. So I'm pretty happy with this. I'm assuming that this is going to be a continuing work in process for a period of time where we can, if we find some things that we want to reprogram, I guess, redemonstrate in there, I'm assuming that that we have that opportunity to do that. But overall, this is much better.
Oh, great. I'm glad to hear that. And yes, you are correct. We are monitoring analytics, and we are taking all of the feedback that we're receiving from internally within the county and people using the feedback form as well to make note of any feature enhancements and things that we need to update on our end.
Other commissioner questions or comments? Go ahead, Commissioner Fye.
Yeah, I really like our new website. I think it's really easy to navigate, and I like I commend you all picking the color background. I think this really suits the image for Washington County. Jennifer and the team, when I had a meeting with you all, there were some sort of feedback you were going to take to the team. Any report out on any of that?
Yes, so we have taken it to the team, and we have tried to make those updates to government. So we did add the code of ordinances based on your feedback there to make it easier for folks to find.
And I really like, I was surprised to see the newly updated pictures of the board. And I was wondering, and this is a reflection of some of the comments I heard from the community, and especially when I was running for office, this idea of like history within Washington County Board of Commissioners and finding out previous commissioners. And so now that we're creating a new path with this website, is there an opportunity to include a history button that really sort of just, I don't know, it seems like a bigger project, so I'll stop right there, but I think it'll be beneficial to the community to sort of track the history of Washington County and who's been representing which district, because for myself, and especially questions for other districts, I had to go through news outlets and navigate that way and type, you know. An easy example is Bonnie Hayes. We were talking about the shelter. When was Bonnie Hayes chair, you know, and how do folks find out that timeline? So not to create more work, but was there any feedback relating to history and carrying that forward within Washington County?
Yeah, that's a great question. I know that when we were working with some groups, we did hear some feedback about wanting to know more about Washington County and that history piece. So that is actually on the list of one of our work groups to create that, so we can add that to the website.
Commissioner Rogers.
Yeah, but I can answer your question. 1986 for Bonnie. About a year after I got on here,
Thank you.
She took over from West Milenbeck. The two buttons at the top, it's a Espanol and Translate. It's funny, we've navigated to the same. I went the other day and looked at the Board of Commissioners and all that, but does that then change that page? I didn't do it. Change those pages to that language?
Yes, it does. So we have the two buttons here. The feedback from the community was that we wanted to have a standalone Spanish button because it is the second most commonly used language across Washington County. But if I do come over here and hit translate, if I clicked on any one of these, it would change to that language. It is.
Can you, just to humor me, because I didn't do it, could you
absolutely
pick a language? I don't care.
Sure.
I would pick Somali, since I can
Somali.
vouch
Okay.
for it.
Okay.
Sure, let me go
That is
back.
very cool. Thank you.
Yeah, let me go down here to Somali. There we go.
No, I this is very impressive.
Thank you for that feedback.
I just want to add my thanks to the team. I know this is something that throughout the organization, many people have wanted to see happen, and you've done it. It's been a big lift. Here we have different kinds of devices, from different types of smartphones, different types of tablets, laptop computers, standalone computers, all kinds of displays, different languages, you name it. There are so many combinations and permutations, let alone all the other work that's gone into organizing all of the vast information into a construct that our community will find useful. They're our target audience, not us. One of my favorite learnings of the last 24 hours is that one of my heavily used uses of the website is the calendar. And I am hereby trained to go to the bottom of the homepage and look under county events versus calendar. And I'm perfectly fine with that because I know that our team did the work with experts across languages, across usage model, and has chosen a phrase, a label that makes the most sense to the most people that we serve here in Washington County. I have yet to run into a page not found error, which is another good sign. But for those folks, like my husband, who has all kinds of bookmark pages, he'll now have to update his bookmarks because the new website is at washingtoncountyor.gov. Know it, love it. We want you to update your email addresses for all of us. So it has the new domain name, but please, everyone in our community, try to give the new website a try on your favorite devices and try to find information that you think is interesting or useful or that you have counted on for so very long, because our team is at the ready to try and ensure that you have the information you want and need. So thank you to the widespread team. I appreciate all of your diligence, your patience, and your expertise. And I join my colleagues on the Board of Commissioners in thanking you for all of that work. Commissioner Willie.
Just one more quick question. Could you put that back in English so I know what I'm reading here, rather than
Absolutely.
Nafisa having the edge on me here? Why, just as a question was asked of me, just from the outside looking in, why isn't the Board of Commissioners on the front page? I should be looking at Jennifer rather than the audience. So what was the thought process, Jennifer?
Sure. So when we were working with our design firm, we had a map of actually all of the data across the county. So everything that was on our webpage, and they helped us to organize this into the way that would be most effectively searched by the community, which is why the Board of County Commissioners landed under government.
Okay. Just wondering.
Sure.
Any other questions?
Chair Harrington, I have a
Go ahead.
low-lift question for you, Jennifer. To our constituents that have our current email address, if they were to email us 5 months from now using that old email, would it reroute to this current new email address that we're going to get? Or
Yes, that is a great question. There is no plan to get rid of the co.washington.or.us domain. So if someone were to email you at that address, if they had it saved in their address book, it would land in your email inbox. So there's no danger of you missing any emails to your .gov address or to your previous email address either.
Thank you.
Sure.
So I was just looking to find another Board of Commissioner page that I find myself frequently directing folks to, and it is how to contact their commissioner. So I'll have to spend some time tomorrow hunting and pecking around for that, so that the point is, I need to train myself on the new content so that I can continue to do my job to, that's the Clackamas County website.
I know. So that's what I was referring to, was Clackamas County.
Oh, so that I can know how to direct folks to the commonly asked questions that I'm used to, so.
Sure.
And now we know Commissioner Willie's point of comparison is the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners webpage. So, all righty. Are there any other questions or comments for our team on this great success? Seeing none, we will move on to our third presentation of the evening, and I'd like to welcome Mr. Joe Nelson, our Director of Assessment, Taxation, and a lot of other really important general government functions, and his team to give us an elections overview, because we are only a couple of months away from having a new general election. And boy, election offices have been in the news under pressure for what, about 6 years at least? So please tell us about the great work that's happening.
Good evening, Chair Harrington and Board of Commissioners. For the record, my name is Joe Nelson. I am the Director of Assessment and Taxation and Elections. Our purpose tonight is very exciting to me. I get to introduce the new elections leadership team first, and second, we get to talk about all these great things elections is doing. You're right, there is a lot of things happening. It's in the news, it's everywhere we look. Some people call them challenges, we call them opportunities. Opportunities for transparent process, opportunities to earn community trust. Tanya, earlier today, mentioned the term a learning organization. We see this as an opportunity to make our processes better. Some of the topics that we're going to talk about are, and just maybe in brief and many others, ranked choice voting, public records requests, there's a lot of them right now, litigation, and maybe a side note on that. Earlier today, we heard that we have an extraordinary county council team. We totally agree. Tom Carr mentioned that earlier today. Jason Bush deserves all the recognition we can give him. We really appreciate him. And with that, I think I'm going to just turn this over to our new Elections Division Manager, Dan Forrester.
Thanks, Joe. Good evening, Chair Harrington, Board of Commissioners. So for the record, my name is Dan Forrester, and I'm the Elections Manager at Washington County Elections Division. I'm new to this role. I stepped in at the end of June, taking over management from Mickey Kawai, who recently retired after over 3 decades of service to elections in Washington County. I'm very excited to be part of this team. Under Mickey's leadership, Washington County has had a strong reputation for innovation, customer service, and consistent application of election laws. I look forward to building upon that foundation as we explore new ways of reducing barriers to voters and making it possible for all eligible citizens to participate fully in the process. So just a little bit about myself. I've been an Oregonian for the last 2 decades and a resident of Washington County for the last 4 years. One of the things that drew me to Oregon was the opportunity to explore wild spaces like the Cascade Mountains and the coastal forests and the deserts. Living in Washington County, I've been impressed with the access to natural areas, but also to the vibrant and diverse communities that make this a truly special place to live. Before I came to work at Washington County, I spent 8 years with Multnomah County Elections Division. I was drawn to elections work because of my desire to make a positive difference in my community, and also because of my belief that fair, trusted elections form the bedrock of democratic society. I worked in a number of different roles at Multnomah County, learning all about the different functions of an elections office. Those years at Multnomah County were a great education in all aspects of elections administration, and it prepared me well for this leadership position with Washington County elections. I'm also very excited to welcome our new election supervisor, Michael Richter, to the division. Michael has many years of experience managing, training, and mentoring employees, and I know he's got exactly the skill set that we need right now in elections. I'll let him say a few words about his background and what brought him to work with us in elections. Michael?
Thank you, Dan. Chair Harrington and Board of Commissioners. For the record, my name is Michael Richter, and I'm the election supervisor for Washington County. I'd first like to echo Dan's comments about the value of fair and trusted elections and their role in a free and democratic society. As a brief personal background, I've lived in Washington County for most of my life, and I'm a graduate of Beaverton High School. In my personal life, I'm a baseball enthusiast and an avid Pacific Crest Trail backpacker. The bulk of my professional experience has been in the private sector in human resources, and specifically, I spent nearly 30 years with Fred Meyer and served as the director of training for Fred Meyer stores, where I created training programs, documented processes, assessed metrics, and I led and coached and developed a team of other training professionals that supported our store locations and employees. I've held many other jobs throughout my career. However, one in particular seems uniquely relevant, and to conclude, I'd like to share that experience with you. In the spring of 1992, I took a job working at the south rim of the Grand Canyon in Arizona. To prepare for that new role, I read what I could about the canyon. This is obviously before the internet. And having never been there before, I talked with others who had and who had seen it personally. But only when I had actually moved there did it become immeasurably clear that although you can read books, see pictures, and talk with others, none of those will truly capture the experience of stepping up to the edge of the south rim of the Grand Canyon and taking it in for yourself. While I don't wish to engrade in grand hyperbole, my experience thus far, beginning this new role in elections, is quite similar. Once more, I read what I could, I spoke with others with experience and insight, but once again, it was only when I actually have stepped into this role that I could begin to more fully understand and appreciate the rich complexities, the intricate procedures, and the dynamic leadership and teamwork that makes an election team function and fosters successful elections. I'm excited to be a part of everything this role, this team, and Washington County has to offer. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about what's going on right now in the Elections Division. We're currently well into the preparations for the November 8th, 2022 general election. Of the over 600,000 residents of Washington County, there are about 385,000 registered voters. All voters within the county will receive ballots in the mail starting October 19th. Now, I should mention that our military and overseas voters are actually receiving their ballots starting this week. Those mailed out on Friday. The November election is a chance for voters to weigh in on statewide, municipal, and special district contests, from senator and governor at the top of the ballot, to city mayors and council positions, to soil and water conservation district positions. Based on historical turnout from the last 3 gubernatorial elections, we're expecting around 70% turnout for this election, and that works out to about 270,000 ballots. We are staying on top of new elections laws, like the recent legislation that allowed elections offices to count ballots postmarked by Election Day, provided they are received within 7 days of Election Day. We're also taking advantage of new technology to give our voters a better experience, like the Ballot Tracks messaging system that sends out text messages and emails to voters when their ballots are in the mail and when they are accepted, and if there is a signature challenge. I hope you are all signed up for Ballot Tracks, and if you are not, let's talk later, and I'll make sure to point you in the right direction. And like the Votes ballot marking application that we've implemented for our military and overseas voters. So this is a special pilot program that we're engaging in, and we are seeing a lot of participation in this program. As a matter of fact, I was talking to our military and overseas voting coordinator today, and she told me that 6 people had voted using this application just today, and ballots just went out. And as COVID restrictions lift, we are once again beginning to visit assisted living facilities and offer special assistance to voters in those locations. Another thing we're working on is standardizing our quality assurance processes. Now, Michael recently had the chance to participate in our ballot proofing process, so I'm hoping he can say just a few words about that experience.
Thanks again, Deb. Concerning our ballot proofing process, thank you. We begin by using our election systems database to populate the certified candidates into each of the specific races and for the text of any of the ballot measures. Now, in no small part, we rely on our trusted partnerships with city recording clerks throughout Washington County, our neighboring counties of Clackamas, Columbia, Multnomah, and Yamhill, and also the Secretary of State's office as part of that process. We work then to ensure that deadlines are met, fees are paid, endorsement files, and that also that all of our own internal T's are crossed and our I's are dotted. Once we've established the races, the measures, and the candidates concretely, we then need to calculate how many unique types of ballots must be created. As an example, in this upcoming November election, we need to create ballot designs for the voters in the 155 precincts throughout Washington County. Many of these precincts are also further divided into subsections called splits. This resulted in a total of 214 different ballot styles, which ensures that each voter in the county will be sent a ballot that accurately reflects the races and the measures for which they are eligible to vote. We then engage in the elections team in several rounds of editing and review that we call proofing. This involves several teams of people where one person reads aloud from the official candidate or ballot measure filings while the other reviews the reviews the ballot style and ensures that names are spelled and capitalized accurately. All the candidates are listed in the Secretary of State provided random alphabetization. Ballot measures are verbatim, and that ballot style conventions are consistent and in accordance with the Secretary of State's directives. This process is then repeated with the same level of rigor and attention to detail for all 214 ballot styles. It's a time-consuming process to be certain, but it's invaluable as it helps ensure that we get each ballot created and sent to a voter is as close to as infallible as we can get. And with that, I want to hand it back over to Dan to talk more about what's ahead in the Elections Division.
Okay, thanks, Michael. And if 214 ballot styles sounds like a lot, that's actually not that many. In a primary, we might have 700 to 900 styles. And we have a very short window to do all that proofing. So the folks that are doing it, like Michael, it's a lot of work in a short time frame. And one thing I want to add too is that the proofing there's a redundancy built into it because it's such an important thing from a liability standpoint. We have two teams that are actually doing the same proofing in different rooms. And it's always amazing how one team will find something in one set, and then another team looking at the same set will miss that thing, but they'll find something else. So that's why we need that redundancy. So some other exciting opportunities on the horizon. In 2023, the state of Oregon, in collaboration with the 36 counties, will begin implementing a new voter registration and election management platform. This is something that's been 2 or 3 years in the making. And this is going to be a great opportunity to streamline processes, reduce waste, and ultimately provide better value to the voters and taxpayers of Washington County. We're very excited about this. We'll also continue to partner with ITS Security at Washington County to ensure that our election security protocols are airtight and second to none in the elections business. Anytime there's a change in leadership, it's a chance for new eyes to look at the ways that things have been done and to ask questions about ways that we can improve those processes. So I'm looking forward to reviewing all of our processes within elections from a lean analysis perspective, but also with an EDI lens, asking how we can continue to reduce barriers to engagement from all members of the Washington County community. The question that we will always be asking in the Elections Division is, how can we continue to remove unnecessary roadblocks and make elections even more trusted, even more transparent, and even more equitable? So we really appreciate the opportunity to introduce ourselves to you tonight, and we appreciate your time. And at this point, Joe, do you have any other comments?
At this point, we'd like to be open for your questions.
Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments for our team tonight?
This was a really fascinating presentation about elections, and I really appreciated the storytelling element you went about, and nice to meet you, and look forward to partnering with you. I'm really impressed, the election office. I think there are great staff that work there, and my interaction came when I wasn't elected, so I wholeheartedly mean that. So, Joe, you got great staff, and look forward to your 2 new addition management staff. The question I had, or have, it's sort of your last comment about the equity in terms of like applying equity lens in our election process. But more specifically, I live in Aloha, and I'm interested in hearing more about if there's going to be any opportunities throughout Washington County, not just Aloha, for more ballot boxes. And then how would you determine, what would be the process to determine where to put more ballot boxes? And then the last question is, since we're on equity, I'll just throw in, is there any plans to translate, now that we've seen our website had so many languages, and the staff, I guess Washington County, we have that capabilities. Is there any opportunity to translate the voter guides and ballots in the future?
Thank you for those questions. It's nice to meet you too, Commissioner. And I will say, to your point about the elections office, is one of the things I didn't mention, and I should have, is it's an incredibly nice team of folks. They're all great to work with, so I really appreciate that. And I'm glad that that came through in your interactions with them. So, yeah, the questions about, well, the Dropbox citing and translations, right? So actually, I come from Multnomah County, where we're used to saying DEI. So I know that EDI is the accepted term here, but I stumble over it sometimes.
I'm so bad with acronyms.
But on Dropbox citing, so that's a great question. I think in going into, and I think that equity considerations are really top of mind when we're thinking about where to cite new Dropboxes. And so we are looking, when we think about where to place Dropboxes, we're thinking about where are they most needed. And one of the ways that we can assess need, I think, is in turnout in an area. So if we have an area that has like a historically low turnout, that suggests that we need more Dropbox resources in that area. So typically socioeconomically wealthy neighborhoods have higher turnout, and areas that are poorer have lower turnout, and so we're inclined to cite Dropboxes in those areas. And there's other considerations as well, like traffic and real estate and partnerships, where we can cite it. But those equity considerations are at the top. Regarding languages, I'm excited to let you know that as of this election, the state of Oregon is doing automatic translation of voters' pamphlet materials into I think it's the 6 most common languages other than English. They include Arabic, Chinese, Korean, Spanish, and I'm sorry, I can't remember the other 2. Oh, Russian, thank you. And so it's at least those 5, and there may be another one as well. But of course, that's an area of interest, and there's always room for making translation services better for elections. Yeah. But that is something that we're excited to be able to offer in partnership with the state of Oregon.
I would like to add that before the last presidential election, we on the board had a conversation with our elections team about that very topic of drop boxes. And we learned more about the need for good lighting, security cameras and whatnot. And our team re-engaged with every single city, every single library, because there are both 24-hour outdoor ballot drop boxes as well as the indoor drop boxes. So kudos to our team for continuing to practice the art of the possible on that. So, and I went to our new website and I searched Dropbox and did not yield on a first response of election drop boxes. So there's something that, as a timely manner, we better get to before ballots drop. So, other commissioners?
Yeah, thank you, and I hope you did give a rousing goodbye to Mickey. I've known her since she's been with the county, and certainly was a icon of integrity and good work. I don't want an answer to my questions right now. I just want to tell you that I've always felt very safe and secure in putting a ballot in. I've always thought it was very fair. I've never thought there was anything that was a problem. But you can be assured there are people in the community who don't feel that way. It's everything from the algorithms used in the system that maybe one candidate gets a 0.8 or 0.9 score for every vote, and the other one gets a 1.1, you know. I mean, it's foolish in our system, but that's what's talked about, as well as absentee ballots. You mentioned overseas. You mentioned a lot of things, and people are saying that's ripe for fraud. It could be, but it's going to be so minor that in the larger dynamics of things, it's not important. But what I'd hope that you might do is give a voter some confidence, because I have it in you, and I believe it's full of integrity. But I'm not certain that you know, that is commonly shared. You know, and as they say, one rotten apple in a barrel can spoil the whole thing. So if you could do that, I think that might enhance, you know, people feeling comfortable and understanding that yes, their vote counts, and yes, it's getting counted accurately, and you can't vote 23 times or whatever people claim you can do. If you can, I've never seen that, but. So anyway, it's not really more of a question than just saying, can you do something along those lines? I think it might give comfort to those who question things. Thanks.
For that comment, Commissioner. Just to your point, we really offer unprecedented transparency in the elections office, and we have we're always inviting people who have questions about the process, whatever questions they have about the process, to come and visit us on a tour. With enough notice, we can generally take time to show people through the whole facility, show them where ballot envelopes are sorted, where the ballots are scanned. And then, of course, during an election, we're too busy to give a lot of tours at that time, but we do have a special observation room that's set up just off our main lobby with video feeds that are tied in not only to our surveillance system, so people can see the images from the surveillance cameras throughout the building, but also they can watch some of the central processes to the vote counting, which is signature verification, adjudication of ballots. Those are some of the most interesting things. So I would encourage you, if you do have constituents who express concern about the integrity of elections, invite them to contact the elections office, and on election day or around election day, they can sign up to visit our observation room and watch the process.
Well, real quickly, 214 different ballots boggles my mind, but I have often wondered how you accomplished that and how many different variations you had to have. But when I was at a couple of months ago, we were at the National Association of Counties, and I was in a public safety meeting, and they talked about security at our elections division. And I can tell you they had some real horror stories about our election folks verbally abused, physically threatened, all of those kinds of things. I'm hoping that none of that has occurred here, but I want to make sure that we also have taken all the necessary precautions to make sure it's a safe environment. So can you respond to that?
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner. So I really appreciate your concern for the safety and mental well-being of our staff. It's really important to me as well. We have not experienced the same kinds of events that other offices have throughout the country, or even in the state of Oregon. You know, there's county. I've heard stories from other counties, and I'm glad those things I've heard about haven't happened up here. But we need to be prepared. Luckily we do have good relationships with our local police departments and the sheriff's departments, and I'm hoping to build on those relationships to provide the kind of security that we really need in the event of something unprecedented.
And I just want to make sure that everyone who works in the election divisions knows that. It's kind of a we got your back thing, and so I want to walk that talk for sure. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, and I will pass that on to our staff. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us tonight. I will add to the comments from my colleagues, the staff of the Elections Division, the people who do the work day in and day out, all throughout the year, not just in the intense election time, are just so marvelous. I know I've taken advantage of the elections office over the 32 years that I've lived here. And no matter what kind of need people have, I know that our organization delivers absolute excellence in customer service. And I've seen it. I've seen it as an elected official having to go in and submit paperwork and being nervous. I've seen it during the election time when ballots are available and our team having on-call service for people to pick up, whether it's a replacement ballot or they've recently moved or whatever, they can't find their ballot. All of those services, the team continues to practice some real out-of-the-box thinking with the intention of how do we make sure that people in our community get the level of service that we want to ensure they have. So thank you so much. I've also been a big customer of the information on the elections website, especially the archive, as well as the information on the upcoming election. Before the voters pamphlet goes out, before ballots go out, people have told me that they appreciated knowing what kind of topics are coming, what kind of ballot measures are coming, as well as what office holders they may see so that they can do their research early on. And other organizations that host election forums count on your web pages to make sure they know what's in the mix this time and what topics should they consider covering in their forums. I have in the past been asked by folks who want to serve as volunteers to ensure that especially our elders who may be in any type of assisted living or congregate living situation, how they can help ensure that folks have the opportunity to get some assistance to complete their ballot, because it can be a little off-putting, and to help them find information, right? We all have the internet at our fingertips, but as we age, it gets a little harder to use, a little more intimidating. So it's awfully nice to have a helper on hand to say, Google that person. I want to know more. Oh, I see in the voters pamphlet they have this website. Can you help me get access to that? And I know your team works diligently for that, but I don't know where to connect folks to. So on our new website, I have to learn more about how to find that out. So thank you so much. Please extend our best wishes and appreciation to every member of the team. Best of luck to you on ensuring that you're able to process the over 250,000, over a quarter of a million ballots coming up pretty soon, and the voters pamphlet that you put together for all of the measure statements, candidates from all the different cities, service districts. It's really impressive. So thank you so much, and I appreciate your highlighting it at our meeting for the public tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
Absolutely.
that's right. It was fun to get to know you and your interests.
Good luck this election. Got your work cut out.
All righty. That's it for presentations tonight, and we do not have any public hearings or action items. So the next item on our agenda is our second public communication period of this evening's meeting, and this is an opportunity for members of our community to come and speak with us for up to 5 minutes an individual. Clerk Moss, do we have anyone who would like to do that?
We do not, but Madam Chair, we still have the 3 items under boards and commissions.
Oh, boy.
We have some appointments
I
to make.
turned the page a little bit too fast. So aren't I lucky that I have lots of folks to count on to make sure I get it right? So as I was correct, no action items or public hearings, but we do have the category of boards and commissions. So we have 3 of those. We're enjoying the number 3, which is sponsoring our meeting tonight. And the first one is to appoint members to the Board of Property Tax Appeals.
Move for the recommended action.
Second.
And so we have a recommendation to appoint Anthony Mills, John Junkin, Darlene Dick, and Heather Brown to the Board of Property Tax Appeals. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye or raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. Next, we have the opportunity to appoint Ramesh Krishnamurthy to the Clean Water Services Advisory Commission for the District 2 position with a term that expires in September 2025, and to appoint Mark Farrar to the Builder Developer 1 position, Stu Peterson to Business 2, and Elaine Stewart to Environment 2, with all of those terms expiring in September of 2026.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Aye. Thank you, commissioners. It's unanimous 4-0. Congrats and thank you to that slate of volunteers. And lastly, we had a vacancy, someone who we recently appointed to the Advisory Council on Racial Equity that moved outside of Washington County. So we have the opportunity to appoint Lillian Sy to ACRE, the Advisory Council on Racial Equity.
So make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye or raising your hand or saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. The motion carries unanimously 4-0. Next, we're moving on to our second public comment period. Yes, thank you, everyone, for your help.
Thank you, Chair Harrington. No members in the room signed up to testify. Would anyone in our online category wish to provide comment for up to 5 minutes on any county-related topic? Give you just a moment to utilize the raise hand function. Not seeing any hands, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And I'm afraid our audience is catching us using our pet toys from Animal Services as a fidget toy this evening.
Just this one. See?
Very good. Creative bunch we are. Next, board announcements. So here we are finishing out the month of September, and oh my goodness, it's October already. Next Tuesday, October 4th, we will have our full complement of meetings. Work session starting at 9, reconvening by 1. Our Housing Authority Board of Directors meeting starting at 10 a.m. And our board meeting to follow, it's approximately going to be around 11 a.m. The following couple of days later, Thursday, October 6th, we'll have our monthly board roundtable starting at 9 a.m. The following Tuesday, October 11th, we'll have our full day of work session starting at 9 a.m. And the following Tuesday, we'll have our dual set of meetings, work session in the morning at 9, board meeting at 10, reconvening work session after that. And then the last Tuesday of October, hope that's not Halloween this year, we have work session just like today, 2 in the afternoon and an evening board meeting. And I'm not ready to acknowledge that November is upon us, but it is listed in our board packet. And as usual, all of our meetings are hosted in a hybrid fashion. So if you can join us in person, please do. We welcome you. But also, please do feel free to join us via the internet and the Zoom application. And we all appreciate the work that our board clerk and our information technology folks, plus our staff, put in to ensure you have packets available and virtual or hybrid meetings. That's it from me. Any other board announcements tonight? Seeing none, who would like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Sure.
I don't know.
Chair Harrington, I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of adjourning tonight's meeting as a motion is made from Commissioner Fye, seconded from Vice Chair Willie, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, Commissioners. Anyone opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. We are hereby adjourned. Good night, everyone.